So I was thinking about this just the other day after receiving this car, and this very well might be the first Lexus I've actually truly driven out on the road in my entire life. I'm not kidding. I cannot think of another time where I've actually driven a Lexus for more than, maybe just around a parking lot or sitting in it at an auto show. So really this is a great opportunity and a totally different perspective from somebody who really doesn't have much experience from a Toyota or Lexus product standpoint. So in this video, I want to give you my comprehensive review thoughts, including my driving impressions on the 2023 Lexus NX 350 Hybrid. As you guys have probably already seen some of the other content I have available here on the channel, including my general walk around tour, as well as my overall likes and dislikes on specific items about this vehicle. So if you guys are new, make sure to check that content out here on the channel, subscribe, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So quickly, I will give you guys a rundown on this particular NX. This is a 2023 Lexus NX 350 Hybrid, finished in the cadmium orange exterior, which is a premium option, and I think it is one well worth it while. I think they have some of the best color palette in the lineup as far as the NX goes. You can get dark greens, blues, the normal blacks, whites, silvers, grays, and of course this metallic orange, which looks fantastic here in the sunlight. Hopefully that does show up here on the camera. It has a lot of gold metallic flake inside of the actual orange paint itself. Now this one is a luxury package, which means it has most of the available option and equipment here on the NX, along with a lot of standalone options as well, including the Mark Levinson audio system. It has the heads-up display, the adaptive or more advanced parking sensors functionality, and we'll go ahead and put the window sticker up on the screen so you guys can see exactly how this one's equipped. And of course, I did mention that in some of my other videos on this vehicle as well. Now this one does have the cream and black interior option with the accent orange stitching, which looks extremely nice. Once again, make sure to check out the other content I have if you guys want a more detailed look on the interior. But let's go ahead and get into driving the NX 350 Hybrid. So like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I cannot name another time where I've actually spent some time out driving a Toyota or Lexus product in recent memory, especially not Lexus, but I can't really recall a Toyota either. So think of this as a review and driving perspective from somebody who just doesn't have a lot of familiarity or time with the brands. I really have been impressed, and I will tell you, of course, my likes and dislikes, as well as just the overall feel I get from behind the wheel of this vehicle. But immediately upon setting out in the NX, you can immediately tell it's a hybrid, of course, with a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter four-cylinder paired to two electric motors, and of course a small battery pack for a total system output of 240 horsepower, which isn't significant, but it is much better than the standalone NX 250 gas, which only uses that 2.5 liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder to propel this vehicle around. And there are two other options as well, including the 2.4 liter turbocharged engine option, and of course the NX 450 Plus, which is a plug-in hybrid, which does give you more system output from the hybrid drivetrain, and of course a much larger battery pack to drive only on electric power. Now immediately after driving this vehicle for just a day or two, I realized just how smooth and overall refined this vehicle does feel, being a hybrid of course, but Toyota I think has done hybrids for quite some time, and much longer than most of the other manufacturers out there. So I think they have kind of a leg up on how to make a hybrid really feel very traditional and smooth operating at that. So we'll go ahead and give it a full throttle acceleration here. You can immediately feel the jolt from the electric motors, and then of course the four-cylinder will help propel it along. Now this vehicle does 0 to 60 in right at 7 seconds, which given the overall size, weight, and all things considered with this vehicle isn't a terrible amount of time to get to 60. Of course, it's not a rocket ship. Both the 2.4 liter turbo as well as the 450 Plus plug-in hybrid will go faster 0 to 60, but this is a significant improvement over the base NX 250. But when it comes to the overall feel behind the wheel, visibility out the front of the NX is going to be very good overall. I did notice that you do have very large side view mirrors, so visibility out the sides really isn't bad. And I think these mirrors do help out with the overall blind spot that you may find in the C-pillar area back there, depending on how you have the seat set. But that C-pillar is fairly large, so do keep that in mind. But I think these side mirrors being as big as they are, compared with the blind spot detection, really does help visibility, especially for the rearward. And then this one does have the optional rear view camera, so you can flip that down. It does have the digital display with the integrated HomeLink functionality. And to me, this is a great option for those that maybe don't like the traditional view with headlights shining in. The camera will kind of eliminate that factor at night. But to me personally, I like the depth of field the perception of a traditional mirror. So that's why in most vehicles nowadays that have the rear camera mirror, I will go ahead and leave that flip down. Now, like I mentioned in my likes and dislikes video, the space inside around the driver's seat isn't vast by any means. It feels just a little bit more narrow than many other vehicles I'm used to, especially for a compact SUV of this size. So typically when I'm driving, I have found my legs contacting the center console as well as the door panel. They are nicely softly padded, so it's not really uncomfortable by any means, but I have noticed just kind of driving this vehicle that from time to time your legs will kind of bump into the two sides here. It might be just a little bit annoying depending on your body type, and just might not be a good option for those that may be on the larger side of things, whether it be weight, just your body build, or maybe even have longer legs than I do, as I am a pretty average dude at that. But as we can see, acceleration is really not an issue on a day-to-day basis, or accelerating at a normal pace. The battery system, electric motors, and combined with that 4-cylinder do seamlessly transition into one another. So under deceleration, you will oftentimes find the vehicle going into electric vehicle mode only. That is signified by a little green icon with an EV inside of it. We are currently driving on electricity alone. And once you tip into the throttle just a little bit more than maybe 10% or so, it will transition back into the gasoline power. We can see we are headed towards a fairly reasonable decline. And if I do activate cruise control, that immediately did put us in the electric vehicle mode. We are coming up to a stoplight, but this entire deceleration period, we are now charging the battery as well as just being propelled, and the vehicle is being powered by electricity. So that is one of the cool aspects that I have noticed about this vehicle, is you are in electricity only quite often, especially if you are decelerating, going down a hill, or just cruising along, trying to maintain a 30, 40, 50 mile an hour speed. The vehicle will transition into battery power quite often. Now, in terms of actual noise inside of the cabin, you do hear the 4-cylinder, especially once it kicks in, from being kind of a silent operation. Now, if you do go into sport mode via this drive knob over here, flick it to the right, you will gain a tachometer in the dash. You do know the RPMs that the engine is at. So you can see we're right at 3,500. And acceleration in the throttle tip-in is much more responsive in sport mode over that of normal and especially eco mode, where it does try to prioritize efficiency in your overall MPG figures. But sport mode definitely is the way to drive if you want kind of a more traditional feel from that of maybe a turbocharged engine power plant out of another vehicle. And I would like to drive the gasoline 2.4 liter turbo NX just to see how it compares to this vehicle at some point. But overall, I really haven't been displeased by the amount of power on tap with the NX, and the efficiency numbers that you are getting from the hybrid powertrain are definitely impressive, again, for the overall size. And there is an F Sport NX, which looks fantastic. And I guess that's a good time to lead us into our next point that I have with this vehicle, and that is the suspension and overall ride quality. Now, being a Lexus, they definitely prioritize comfort, luxury, and I think it accomplishes those tasks extremely well. But I would say, coming from a sport compact vehicle with more of a stiffer suspension, that the suspension inside of the NX feels just a little too soft for my everyday preference. Now, with that, the F Sport, like we just saw pass us right there, does come with adaptive dampers, where the 350 hybrid here does not, unfortunately. So I would be interested and curious to see if that would feel a little bit more dynamic and responsive, a little bit less body roll, and just a little bit less movement overall in the suspension, whether you're braking, accelerating, or just turning around a corner. Because I think as it is, the 350 hybrid, again, going over this rough pavement is extremely smooth, plush, very effortless driving experience at that. But when you do want to take a dynamic corner, say an on or off ramp on the interstate, or just want to turn sharply around a corner, you do definitely feel the weight transfer through the suspension. And even coming to a stop using the brake pedal and some of the regenerative braking inside of this vehicle, it really is noticeable the amount of body lean from the fairly soft suspension and spring rate. So I would say I've been averaging somewhere in the mid to upper 30 mpg range in a mix of city and highway type of driving. It's definitely been more primarily city, and this vehicle is rated up to 41 mpg in the city and about 34 to 37 out on the highway. So it is more efficient at lower speeds. That is where really the hybrid powertrain shines, where you can go into more battery efficiency and maximize the overall capabilities of the hybrid powertrain itself. Caution, crossing traffic detected. Now that is one of the things that was very interesting getting in this vehicle and using the actual heads-up display. As you can see, it was displayed there on the digital cluster, but it also displays up there on the heads-up display as well. It uses sensors at the front of the vehicle to detect oncoming traffic from the side, and it really is helpful in certain situations where maybe you have a blind spot, you're exiting a parking lot and really can't see to your left or right too well to view oncoming traffic. The system does a great job of detecting that oncoming traffic and alerting you if you might be pulling out into a potentially dangerous situation. So that was definitely something I highlighted in my likes and dislikes video, and we got to see it in action there and picked up on the car across the intersection as we were starting to pull out. Very fitting that we are following behind a RAV4. So now we'll go ahead and activate cruise control and use the lane tracing assist functionality. And after using the system for about a week in different environments here on the interstate, on 2-lane back roads, overall I do like the system, and I am a fan of the overall adaptive cruise and, like I said, the lane tracing assist. But there have been a few instances where I have that assist functionality on specific to the lane keeping and lane tracing, and it will want to follow the rightmost lane of the road. Say you want to go straight and there is an exit here on the right. Well, the system sometimes will confuse which direction you want to keep traveling and will kind of jerk you to the rightmost lane. And overall, that's probably the worst thing I found with this system, is wanting to keep or follow the rightmost lane on a road, even though you want to continue on straight with the vehicle. And we can see right there in the digital cluster, it did alert me that someone was going to merge in front of me, and it did pick up on that vehicle and add a little icon to the adaptive cruise control logo. So again, as a whole, I think the systems work very well. They are not a hands-free system, but you can take your hands off for a brief moment, and you can see it does maintain the center of the lane very well, maintains the distance you have set. If you are coming up on a slower vehicle, it will slow down and match the distance you have set. But as a whole, I really didn't have any major complaints with the driver assistance technology or safety systems inside the NX over my week with it. It works fairly well. I will say it does bounce around between the lanes a little bit more than some of the other systems I have used from different manufacturers. And in terms of the overall cabin noise, hopefully you guys are getting a good idea as far as that goes here at roughly 70 miles an hour. It is very quiet. It is a fairly breezy day, so you are getting a little bit of wind noise. I am hearing a little bit of tire noise as well as we start to slow down from the vehicles in front of us, but it is a very comfortable experience out on the highway, very quiet at that, and again, very luxurious, which the goal of this vehicle is to be a luxury compact SUV, and a very efficient one at that. And as far as the overall interior goes and the ergonomics inside the cabin, this is one of the highlights that I did mention in my likes and dislikes video, is that overall this is a very driver focused or driver centric cabin with the way the infotainment system is angled toward the driver. A lot of these controls around it in the center console area are very easy to access as a driver or from a driver's perspective. When driving, I oftentimes find my hand resting on the gear shift knob here, and all the buttons right behind it again are very easy to access with your right hand while driving along. And I think the armrest position and the overall just cabin space and cabin feel feels very nice, very comfortable, tons of luxurious materials here on the dashboard, on the door panel, and as a whole it was really impressive. And a lot of the steering wheel controls do feel very premium as well, including the race inspired paddle shifters on the backside that kind of change the engine revs depending on what gear or simulated gear you are in. So you can see every time you shift there, gives you a little animation up on the dashboard and does change the overall rev band or the engine RPMs that they are currently at, even if there are no actual gears available to shift in the transmission, as this does use a CVT type. And speaking of some of the technology inside, this vehicle does use the rear view camera up here to kind of read the speed signs and what is going on in the vehicle. So it will read the actual speed limit signs posted on the roadway, as well as the construction, some of the pedestrian things and everything like that, to display it here on the digital dashboard, as well as up on the heads-up display as well. Now, what's cool about driving through town right here is that this vehicle does feature an EV only mode via a button here on the dashboard. So if we push that, it lights up EV mode in the digital cluster, and as long as we maintain 25 miles an hour or less, it will stay strictly in electric power only, which is very cool. Now, sure, the battery may be depleted enough eventually to where electric mode won't work until it recharges itself just a little bit, but driving along here through this town, we are currently using only electricity and the electric motors available in this vehicle. Now, as soon as I exceed 25 miles an hour here, you'll see it go away. Right there, right as soon as we hit 26, gives you a little beep and it says EV mode deactivated. So pretty cool that it does offer this functionality. I don't know too many regular hybrids out there from other manufacturers that do give you that option, but it is a pretty limited use case. But if you're at low speeds under 25 miles an hour, you might as well select that and travel only in electricity. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for my review on the 2023 Lexus NX 350 Hybrid. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Overall, very positive, eye-opening experience, given this is really my first one that I can think of that I've really driven in depth in my entire lifetime. So that might have to be part of the title of the video or something like that. Driving my first Lexus ever. I can see it now, somewhat of a clickbait title. But anyways, I appreciate Lexus for sending this vehicle out for me to review for you guys. There's other ones already lined up in the works, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned here on the channel. And as always, I do appreciate your support. So let me know your thoughts of the Lexus NX 350 Hybrid. If you happen to own one, leave your ownership experience and overall thoughts. And if you've driven some of the other gas versions or some of the other trim levels, let me know your thoughts on those as well in comparison to the 350 Hybrid. I think this is a great option if you're looking for kind of a thoughtless experience, you know, between hybrid and electric. This combines the best of those options, gives you a very efficient, compact luxury SUV that'll get typically in the mid to upper 30 mpg range without hesitation all the time. So I think from that standpoint, if you just want something very efficient, the regular hybrid is definitely the way to go. But of course, if you want the plug-in or want the more performance-oriented gas options, those are there as well for your decision. So with all that being said, once again, I appreciate the support here on the channel, and as always, hope to see you guys in the next one.